Gold Coast were looking pretty comfortable, Jake, you would have thought, Norwood on Friday night, then gave up a flurry of last quarter stats, basically. Got spanked in a whole range of stats in that last term to give up a 10-point loss in the end. Stuart Dew probably doesn't catch as much heat as he would if he was coaching a bigger side and maybe in Victoria, and that's just the way it is. The Suns don't get a lot of clicks, so it's not really worth talking about. It's just the unfortunate reality of the Suns as a unit. But you wanted to have a chat about Dew and his longevity in the job at Gold Coast.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, I'm not here to say someone shouldn't have or hold their job, but at what point do you have to start looking for something different if you're the Suns? I mean, just a quick number here. So there's 88 coaches in VFL, AFL history that have coached 100 games. Stuart Dew has the worst winning percentage of all those 88. And he still seems to be under no pressure. That, to me, is remarkable. And to your point, it is a large factor of that is the fact that he is coaching the Suns. If this was any other club, I don't know if he gets to this point. So
I think a club like Gold Coast, the expansion team, has cycled through a couple of coaches prior to Dew. I think the idea of, having a settled coaching panel is probably where they're thinking. They're saying, we just don't want to keep cycling through guys every
I get
2 or
that, but
3
this
years.
isn't an expansion. I don't think we can even call them an expansion team anymore. This is year 13. They still haven't played a final. They've never had a season where they've been 50-50 or better. They've had 12 straight losing seasons, and they're on track for a 13th now. At what point do you sort of say, like, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. When you look at and I know you got more than 4 players on the ground, but you look at the 4 that started most centre bounces with Witts, Miller, Anderson, Rao. You think, gee, that's as good as anyone. They've got talent around. I know they lost King last year, but they've got players around. They look a far stronger team than they have in previous seasons. But the results just aren't coming. And I've never been a big believer or blamer of a coach. I think a coach can only make so much difference. I know you might disagree with something like Ross Lyon or what he's been able to do with the Saints or whatever. But the reality is they can't just keep going on like this for another year, another 2 years. Because at what point do you just sort of say, well, we're not getting anywhere. We're going backwards.
Had the opportunity with Clarkson, I believe. And they stuck with Dew. So interesting times ahead for the Suns, because I think we all kind of tipped them to have that winning year.
Yeah, I thought they'd
break
be
even.
I thought they'd be around the 8th to 10th mark.
It's exhausting trying to, and again, as an analyst, trying to look at the Suns and just why and where it's gone wrong. It just happens so quick. It just fluctuates so much. And even 2 years ago, their game style was really based around, it was a West Coast game style. They were very kick mark and very sort of low stoppage game. Then last year, that sort of brought the stoppages back and became more contested, which was a good way to go. And then this year, I can't even give you a signature for the first 5 rounds. It's really, really hard to see.
That final quarter, the stat lines that you've brought to the table for this final quarter, if Freo had finished the stat lines that you're about to read out, for the match, you'd probably think, oh, they win that. But this is just for the final quarter alone.
Yeah, so plus 32 disposals, plus 38 marks, only plus 6 inside 50s, but going inside 50, they took 7 marks inside 50 for that quarter to Gold Coast 0. I think there was a couple of teams that only took 8 or 9 marks inside 50 for their games across the round. So to take 7 for
weather
the
as
quarter,
well there.
it was, they had, again, and it all goes back to Gold Coast pressure. So quarter by quarter pressure. Quarter 1, they're up, again, you've seen the pressure gauge on Fox Footy. Anywhere around 200 is elite. 190 is probably what every club's trying to get to at least sort of hold their heads up high. Quarter 1, Gold Coast 189, pretty good. Quarter 2, 205. Exceptional. Quarter 3, 195, very, very good. Quarter 4, 165. Just haven't seen a drop off from 3 quarters of being that contested. Usually pressure can go with a game style as well. The game is a bit more enclosed. They just fell apart. They just let the game open up and let Freo do what they want.
Bit of a plug for the Footyology podcast that Rowan Connolly does with Rodney Eade on a Wednesday. But they talked about coaching for effort for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I know that won't tickle the fancies of stats nerds out there. But the fact that you can kind of coach effort and inspire, your charges and actually have some sort of way of making them go harder at the footy and approaching contests more. It just sounds like an effort-based sort of drop-off.
It did. It seemed like Freo sort of, early in that quarter, 5 or 10 minutes in, Freo sort of slowly took control, started to win contests, started to win a little bit of territory, but then after the 5-10 minute mark, I know Gold Coast got a couple of late ones, but to me, watching it again, just watching by the eye, I thought, what's happened to Gold Coast here? They're just, the whole game style that they had up for the 3 quarters just disappeared in that final
So they
quarter.
got North this weekend, not to bang on about the Suns too much. North round 6 at home. If they lose, they're 1-5, and it really feels like it's season over.
Yep.
It's a must-win game, round 6. Because then I think they play Richmond and Melbourne in the desperate Richmond and Melbourne. I mean, they could easily lose all of them.